The story begins with our protagonist, Kuju, heading to school feeling anxious, and his anxiety skyrockets when his cat, Felice, pokes her head out of his bag. Desperate to avoid being labeled a weirdo, Kuju quickly shoves Felice back inside, reminding her that she's supposed to stay hidden. However, Felice refuses to cooperate, and their scuffle draws the attention of a girl named Imari, who rushes over to admire the cute cat. Kuju asks if she is a returnee, and Imari frantically rummages through her bag to find her academy invitation, which Kuju notices is identical to his own. Before he can ask any more questions, the bell rings, and Imari rushes off while Kuju sternly warns Felice in his bag to stay alert, because it would be disastrous if anyone were to uncover her true identity. A few moments later, Kuju attends the entrance ceremony and learns that the academy was founded jointly by the goddess and the Japanese government to bridge the gap between the goddess and the humans. Soon after, a senior named Kazuha, who also serves as a school officer, takes the stage and reveals that the school is basically a quarantine facility for returned heroes. She tells them that anyone who wishes to return to their ordinary life will have their powers and memories sealed, and for those determined to continue as heroes, she prepares a demonstration to show them what awaits them. So with the snap of a finger, Kazuha summons several strange creatures, scaring the students into a code brown, except for Felice, who finds the whole situation interesting. As panic erupts in the hall, a few bold heroes eagerly take on the strange creatures, effortlessly wiping them out in no time, while Kuju watches in amazement at the power of the returnees. After the demonstration, Kazuha commends the students, happily asking if they had fun with her toys. She reveals the government needs heroes because demons have already devoured many worlds connected to the World Tree. She also explains that a villainous demon lord once destroyed several worlds before the goddess sealed her in the Lost World, earning her the title of the Lost Demon Lord. After her long speech, she tells the students to prepare for an ability test, and then singles out a few names, including Kuju, leaving him wondering if he did anything wrong. A few moments later, Kazuha bluntly informs those she singled out that they will not be taking the test because they don't bear the Savior Crest, a mark bestowed by the goddess to heroes who have saved a world. She further adds that it is not given to those who fail to defeat the Demon Lord or who were too cowardly to help other heroes after being summoned. She begins insulting them for being worthless losers and dropout heroes, and before leaving, she informs them that they still have the chance to be promoted. Her demeaning remarks hit a nerve of some brat named Kashima, so he stops her to salvage his tiny ego, but Kazuha treats him like less than garbage, infuriating him further, so he lunges at her, but Imari quickly steps in, only to be shoved aside by him. Kuju rushes to check on Imari and warns Kashima to ease off on the steroids, which only fuels his rage, and he barks at Kuju, his mouth odor nearly knocking Kuju out. Desperate to prove he is not a loser, Kashima casts a massive flame spell, but Kazuha remains unimpressed, so he unleashes the flames on the other students, only for it to be instantly nullified. Before he can figure out what caused it, a girl named Rei swoops in and issues him a demerit for violating the rules. After the commotion ends, Kuju reflects on his pathetic life and agrees it suits the dropout hero label given to them by Kazuha. Later, Rei and Kazuha discuss the incident, and Kazuha says she couldn't find out who nullified Kashima's magic, which surprises Rei because Kazuha's eyes are capable of identifying abilities. Shortly after, Kuju locates his dorm, which is a step down from the one given to the heroes with the Savior Crest. As soon as they settle down, Felice reveals that Kuju was the one who nullified Kashima's magic circle, and Kuju fears that Kazuha and Rei probably noticed it. He then apologizes to Felice for bringing her to a dangerous place, but Felice assures him that she is not worried because he will definitely protect her. She then begins to tease him and transforms into her human form, almost causing Kuju to flatline. He wonders how she was able to transform, especially since her powers are still weak, and Felice informs him that it's not enough to maintain her form for long. She continues to flaunt her plots in front of him, but Kuju has more self-control than a monk, so he hurriedly throws a cover over her before he combusts. Shortly after, Felice thanks Kuju for rescuing her from her dull world and reassures him that she followed him willingly, revealing that she is actually the infamous Lost Demon Lord from the Lost World. Felice tells Kuju that she would have eaten his head if she didn't like him, and, turning to look at him, they both start reminiscing about their first encounter in the Lost World, 30,000 years ago, which was only 3 years in the real world. Kuju recalls how he was summoned to a desolate world where he met Felice. After he was summoned, Felice immediately told him to murk her, which left him confused. So she explains that he's in another world called the Lost World, where everything has come to its end. Kuju asks why it became a wasteland, and she bluntly reveals that she destroyed it and every living thing in it because she is the Demon Lord. This revelation sends a chill down Kuju's spine, making him ask why she summoned him, so Felice replies that she wants him to murk her. Apparently, she can't do it herself due to a restriction on her roots. She explains that a root is basically a spiritual core that defines one's existence. According to Felice, her root was created to be a demon lord, which restricts her from sending herself to the afterlife, which is why she needs a hero to do it for her. But since he knows he's a loser, Kuju informs her that he can't even murk a fly, so Felice promises to personally train him. A few minutes later, she takes him to a wall and uses a magical key to open it, revealing her treasury. Kuju is stunned by the vast treasures, which she claims to have taken from the 1,000 worlds that she destroyed. She then tells Kuju that she will use all these treasures to train him until he is strong enough to end her. While Felice rummages through her treasures, Kuju explores the vast room, and just then, he stumbles upon an eerie sword. Despite looking plain, the sword draws his attention, and he almost touches it. Luckily, Felice stops him in time, explaining that it is an ancient, living, demonic sword that can devour souls called Levankin. Felice reveals that she has only used it 3 times, however Kuju learns that it'll take a loser like him 300,000 years just to hold it. Because of the slow passage of time in the Lost World, Felice vows to train Kuju to the fullest and even bring him back from the afterlife if he dies, because all they have is time. However, this only scares Kuju, convincing him that he might have fallen into the hands of a lunatic. After the castle tour, Felice throws a welcome party for Kuju, and after that, he begins his life in another world. He thought she was going to train him harshly, but only ended up making him do questionable and weird things, which she claims will teach his body how to answer to his will. A few years later, Kuju started doing more strenuous training and learned how to use magic. He became a pro at fighting with swords and magic after 20,000 years, and he used demons created by Felice during training. His only source of entertainment was talking to Felice, who was always so eager to hear boring tales about his homeland, and was especially interested in stories about his saucy pet black cat, which he considered family. During one of such story times, Felice gets emotional when Kuju says she reminds him of his cat because, for her, it means he sees her as family. As Kuju looks around the empty land and corpses, he wonders how a simple-minded girl like Felice caused so much disaster, so he asks her why she destroyed those worlds. Felice simply replies that it is because she was created as a world-destroying demon lord and explains that this current version of her is actually a glitch. Kuju assures her that it's not her fault and blames the one who made her, but Felice doubts she is as innocent as he sees her. However, Kuju refuses to back down, convinced she's trying to send herself to the afterlife as an atonement. Felice lets him know that she's not so kind as to care about anyone, but Kuju refuses to believe it. Felice considers it for a moment, but after staying locked up for so long, she can't tell her true feelings anymore and bluntly tells Kujuo that she is exhausted. After that, she quietly retires, leaving him speechless and unable to console her. Even though he can't understand what she's going through, Kuju wonders if he can free her from the shackles of being a demon lord and help her lead a normal life in the real world. After pondering it for a while, he wishes he could avoid terminating her and instead be together with her. However, 30,000 years later, Kuju completes his final training, and Felice immediately tells him that it is time for him to finish her. While taking a walk together, she tells him that she is still shackled to her destructive side, and once her current consciousness disappears, she will start destroying things again, including him. Kuju says he doesn't mind, but Felice tells him that he must murk her to protect the world. She then asks if he is hesitating because he has feelings for her, and without hesitation, Kuju reveals that he does. However, his riz is too weak, and Felice simply thanks him for making her happy during their time together, and says she will be glad to die by his sword. After their emotional moment, she transforms into her demon form, inviting Kuju to murk her, and without hesitation, he charges forward to grant her wish. As they engage in a fierce battle, Kuju no longer recognizes the cheerful Felice he once knew. Despite his training, he's no match for the destructive demon before him, barely surviving her relentless attacks. Even so, he keeps trying to reach her consciousness and tells her that he wants her to live because she taught him what it means to spend a long time with someone. As Felice attacks him again, Kuju stubbornly charges straight at her, and their final clash ends with Felice defeated, so she urges Kuju to finish her and return to his world, but he hesitates. Felice apologizes for dragging him into her mess, and she is left stunned when Kuju suddenly drops his sword. He firmly tells her to keep living and assures her that what she became was never her fault. Kuju wishes he could find a way to free her from her fate, and Felice says she has already tried, using the demon sword, Levankin, but it failed. Even so, Kuju refuses to give up. Determined to give it a try, he declares that he will shatter the chains binding Felice's root and separate her from her identity as a demon lord. As he prepares to begin the separation ritual, Felice cries out for him to stop because it might destroy his soul if he fails. However, Kuju reminds her that he already defeated her, which means he is powerful enough. Determined to share her pain and joy, Kuju summons Levankin, which immediately starts draining his life force, and it taunts him for being a weak loser, telling him to give up. But Kuju refuses to yield and, clinging to his vow never to give up on Felice, he struggles against the blade's overwhelming power and manages to seize it. Soon after, he reaches Felice's root, and with a single strike, he shatters the chains binding it before passing out. When Kuju finally awakens, he is surprised to find that Felice has transformed into a cute black cat, so he asks her why, and she explains that Levankin destroyed her powers, meaning she can't maintain a human form. Despite losing everything, Felice admits she feels lighter, making Kuju realize he succeeded, but Felice reveals that both their souls would have vanished if she hadn't helped him. Kuju then apologizes for acting recklessly, but Felice still thanks him for doing his best before complaining she doesn't know what to do now that she is free, so Kuju invites her to return to his home world. He promises to show her what a normal life looks like, and without hesitation, Felice leaps into his arms, accepting the offer. However, on their first day back in Japan, they are ambushed by 3 masked figures, who ask Kuju if he is a returnee from another world. The moment he confirms it, they hand him an invitation, summoning him to the State Academy, and before leaving, they warn him that he cannot decline the invitation. Before Kuju can ask any questions, they instantly vanish, leaving him confused and with no choice but to report to the academy with Felice. That night in his dorm, Kuju apologizes to Felice again for bringing her into a den of heroes, but Felice tells him that she actually enjoys how thrilling life is at the academy. She then asks whether he plans to conquer the world now that he is powerful, but Kuju says he plans to chill for the rest of his life because he can't handle the consequences of wielding too much power. Felice tells him that having power isn't bad, but how it is used is what's important, and urges him to be more confident in himself instead of shirking responsibilities because of her mistakes. Meanwhile, outside the academy, a tiny goddess named Lala eagerly looks forward to the new students she will be supervising. The following day, Kuju heads to class, anxious about interacting with other students. Felice overhears him mumbling and questions him about it, so he shows her the book he bought on how to talk to people, convincing her that he's actually a dork. Kuju insists he needs it if they're going to blend in, and reminds her that he has only talked to her for thousands of years, which has made him forget how to relate to others. Felice finds this offensive because it means interacting with her was abnormal, so Kuju reminds her about all her questionable behaviors, convincing her that she was truly a bad influence. A few moments later, Kuju opens the door to his classroom, only to find the room quieter than my love life, so he realizes he came in too early. Suddenly, he hears Lala's voice and slowly tiptoes around searching for her until he sees her hiding under a table. Her proportion makes Kuju mistake her for a missing underdeveloped grandma, and Lala throws a fit trying to convince him that size doesn't matter in the mangaverse. After proper introductions, she proudly tells him that she is a goddess, which scares Kuju because of Felice's presence. Lala senses that Kuju doesn't believe her, so she tries to show off her power, which lasts all of 2 seconds before she runs out of steam, disappointing him. Since he doubts her claim, Kuju asks Felice whether Lala is a goddess, and she confirms it, explaining that her power is very weak. Kuju then apologizes for doubting Lala and surprises her when he says he's never met any goddesses. Felice quickly reminds him that heroes are usually summoned by a goddess, so it would be weird if he had never met one. So Kuju quickly makes up some flimsy excuse to divert her attention, but Lala's brain is bigger than her uncle's missiles, so she immediately clocks his lies and accuses him of hiding something. When she focuses her attention on his bag, Kuju gets extremely nervous, so he hurriedly tells Felice to act like a cat. As soon as Lala drags the bag from him and opens it, Felice puts on her best cat show, instantly charming Lala. Kuju is momentarily relieved that they fooled her, and soon, the students begin arriving. By the time the class is filled, Kuju is surprised that they all came to school, and he wonders if Kazuha's speech prompted the change in their attitude. Since the teacher has yet to come, he wonders if Lala might be the teacher, but she tells him that she's only a class supervisor. Just then, Kazuha cheerfully enters the class, leaving everyone stunned, and when she senses their curiosity, she explains that regular teachers have nothing to offer to superpowered heroes. She then clearly lets them know that she's different from losers like them, which is why she is an instructor. To get to know the level of their ability, Kazuha snaps a finger to create a spatial magic that terrifies the students, and by the time they awaken, they find themselves in another space. Felice is impressed with her magic, and Kuju finally understands what she meant when she said she was not on their level. Before the class can fully understand what is happening, Kazuha summons a horde of monsters worse than the one she used at the entrance ceremony, leaving everyone unsettled by her hobby of raising monsters as pets. She chills back on a high platform with Lala to watch the test after telling them not to die, convincing Kuju that she had no plans to lecture them properly. So he decides to participate this time, especially since it has been a while since he last trained. Before long, everyone starts tackling the monsters except Kuju, who is trying to figure out the best way to defeat his opponent, a dragon. He knows winning too quickly or too slowly would definitely draw unwanted attention, so he decides to strike a balance while still aiming to win. With calculated precision, he charges forward, dodging the dragon's attacks while using magic to suppress its flames. The dragon then uses a breath attack against him, but Kuju blocks it with a barrier, impressed with himself for putting on a good show. By now, Kuju's battle with the dragon has already started drawing attention from others, and their comments reassure him that he's doing a good job balancing his strength. However, his carefully crafted plan collapses when two students roast him for being weak, pointing out that the dragon is female, which is supposed to be considerably weak. To salvage the situation, Kuju quickly uses his bare hand to behead the dragon in a single punch, instantly changing their opinion. But just as he starts celebrating, the same two students notice that the dragon is actually a male, which is insanely strong, and they immediately start wondering what kind of monster Kuju must be to one-shot such an overpowered beast. Kuju hurriedly puts on an act to convince them that his hand suffered an injury from the punch that took out the dragon, and his pretense works like magic. But before he can relax, an ominous feeling hits him as a flame wisp orb appears in the middle of the battlefield. Basically, this is an artificial life form created by magic, and Kuju wonders how it entered the spatial space. Moments later, the flame wisp transforms into a giant hydra and fires several balls of fire, so someone reminds everyone to deploy their magic shield. A huge explosion erupts, which terrifies Lala, so she tells Kazuha to stop the test, but discovers that she is already sleeping. After the dust settles, all the students are unharmed, but the monster's flame incinerates other beasts in the arena. Since Kazuha has no intention to intervene and the students are already out of steam, Kuju decides to step up. He silently uses his eyes to control the monster, freezing it in place, and seeing that it's unable to move, the students decide to use magic to heal themselves. Suddenly, Kashima steps out of the woods and, with a snap of his finger, the monster vanishes, revealing that it actually belongs to him. Instead of apologizing for almost murking his classmates, Kashima starts bragging and even taunts them for being weak losers, but this annoys Kuju. Before he can act, though, Imari steps up, asking Kashima to apologize to everyone, but he simply ignores her like garbage. He then challenges her to use her strength to force him to bend the knee, and Imari agrees, pushing him aside, without hesitation. Her boldness leaves everyone stunned, and Kashima immediately activates his magic circle, so Kuju hurriedly tells Imari that she is no match for him. However, she refuses to listen to him and, feeling like an overpowered NPC, she pulls out her sword, declaring her intention to fight to the end. As Kuju tries to intervene once more, Felice tells him to stand down, and Kashima, brimming with confidence, orders Imari to make the first move. So she activates her skill, and for a split second, the surge of power shocks everyone, but just as quickly, it fades out, and she crumbles before even moving a muscle. This makes Kuju realize that she's not strong enough to use her power, and Kashima grows even more arrogant, as he calls her a worthless piece of garbage, infuriating Imari. But before things spiral out of control, Lala steps forward and tries to exert her authority, but one cold glance from Kashima sends the misproportioned girl running back to complain to Kuju. However, when he tries to convince Imari to quit, she stubbornly tells him to back off. Just then, Kashima moves closer to mock her to her face, and Kuju steps between them to keep things from turning ugly, but that only earns him a punch from Kashima. After that, Kashima shifts his attention to Kuju, demanding that he show off his own trash ability. When he learns that Kuju has no unique skill, he decides to make an example of him by incinerating his bag. But before he can do it, Kuju grabs Kashima's wrist and retrieves the bag. After Kashima shoves him aside, Kuju gets fed up, so he hands the bag to Imari and challenges Kashima to show him the so-called power he's been bragging about. Kashima immediately casts a fireball spell, proudly boasting that his ability can enhance fire magic, and with that, he tries to barbecue everyone on the field. However, before even launching the fireballs, Kuju flicks a finger and nullifies them instantly, leaving the entire class stunned. After thinking about it for a while, Kashima concludes that Kuju's unique ability must be magic, but unbeknownst to them, he's actually the overpowered prodigy of a freaky demon lord. Since he can't rely on magic, Kashima charges forward with his fist instead, but Kuju swiftly dodges the attack and brutally kicks his nuggets, sending his family jewels on a very short and painful vacation. Imari and the rest of the class are stunned by Kuju's strength, but the next second, he puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, somehow convincing everyone that Kashima miraculously crushed his own twin treasures all by himself. As soon as the drama ends, Kazuha awakens and, after confirming that no one has died, she snaps her fingers and teleports everyone back to the classroom before immediately dismissing the class. Just as Kuju is trying to figure out her game, she walks past him and whispers that he should show off his skills more often. This makes Kuju regret his brief display of power and fear that his secret could soon be exposed. Moments later, he realizes that Imari still has his bag, but before he can retrieve it, she rushes up to him and shakes his hand, asking him to be her master. This and the fact that Kazuha is onto him make Kuju conclude that his peaceful life is officially over. Before Kuju can react, Imari charges at the intruder, but Amri effortlessly dodges and strikes her from behind. After defeating Imari, Amri is disappointed at the so-called hero's strength, but in the next moment, Kuju tackles her to the ground. While holding her down, he checks on Imari and quickly realizes that Amri had no intention of truly hurting anyone and she had only struck with the back of her sword. Kuju then orders Amri to help move Imari to a chair, threatening to break her arm if she refuses to cooperate. Once Imari is settled, Amri commends Kuju for his quick reflexes and asks if he is the hero who once stood up to defeat the demon lord. Kuju refuses to answer directly and demands to know why she attacked them. Amri explains that she wanted to test whether they were worthy of being entrusted with protecting her world. She adds that she would have eliminated them if they had turned out to be frauds posing as heroes. Amri admits that she is satisfied with Kuju's strength but quickly warns that it would not be enough to defeat the demon lord, Gageorg, who is both cunning and brutal. Kuju then asks if she herself had been defeated by Gageorg, and Amri recounts how Gageorg destroyed everything she loved, which forced her to grow stronger for revenge, but even then, she was barely able to survive encounters with monsters. The first time she faced Gageorg, she couldn't even reach him, though she managed to escape alive. The experience made her realize that she was weak and reminded her that she was no hero. As Amri curses herself out, Imari listens quietly, and after that, Amri advises Kuju not to underestimate the demon lord. Kuju tells her not to worry and reveals that he is just part of the backup team. Amri is pleased when she learns that the main team in charge of the mission is the most elite of the heroes. She finally relaxes and begins to express her hatred for the clown demon lord, and says she wishes she could defeat him by herself. But suddenly, Imari takes Amri's hand and admits that she, too, has had a similar experience. After a brief pep talk, Imari firmly declares that she'll continue wielding her sword despite feeling powerless. She urges Amri to do the same and then launches into a very lengthy TED talk, which Amri finds amusing. Afterwards, Amri apologizes for attacking Imari, and as the two girls bond over their insecurities, Kuju steps outside to join Felice. Felice warns him that she senses a bad omen in the air and advises him to remain alert. Kuju then asks why the goddesses would summon heroes from another world instead of empowering local warriors. Felice explains that humans from Earth are unique and originally created to be warriors of immense power. However, the goddesses placed a shackle on them to prevent self-destruction, and only a select few are unlocked to become heroes. As they continue their conversation, Felice suddenly recoils, sensing a dark, eerie aura approaching. Moments later, a massive tent appears in the sky, and as Amri rushes outside with Imari, she instantly recognizes the tent as Gageorg's signature mark. Elsewhere, Arita is pleased that the demon lord has come to them, saving him the trouble of tracking him down. A few moments later, Gageorg himself appears in the night sky, and Amri is filled with hatred at the sight of him, while Kuju and Imari watch in horror as a massive, clown-like demon looms over the sky. Amri then questions Gageorg, demanding to know what he wants, and he tells her that he came to see her, making it clear that this demon lord might actually be a glorified simp. He complains that Amri has destroyed a ton of his minions, so he was lonely and decided to come keep her company. Suddenly, he begins to taunt her by mentioning how he murked her parents, and this infuriates Amri, making her want to fight him. However, stops her and tells her that Gageorg is just trying to bait her into attacking him. Suddenly, the city knights shoot Gageorg with several magic cannons and remove his head from the group chat. Everyone begins to celebrate his defeat except for Anri, who warns them to stay alert, and just as she speculated, the giant clown was not his actual body. The next moment, the massive clown's body explodes, releasing countless small clown monsters, leaving everyone stunned. Worried about innocent people getting hurt by the chaos, Koju prepares to take action, but before he can do anything, Anri points in the direction of the tower, where Arata and his team are preparing to take action. The three members of the team channel their powers to amplify Arata's strength, and as Koju watches, he can't help but wonder what Arata's true power really is. Just as the monsters charge toward the tower, Arata unleashes a devastating wind strike, annihilating them in a single blow and leaving everyone stunned. As the bodies of his fallen minions rain from the sky, Gageorg reappears, clearly amused by the power of the so-called heroes from another world. Arata then begins to mock Gageorg, but the demon merely laughs, boasting that he intends to eliminate the heroes in front of the people to crush their hope. He then casts a powerful fire spell and unleashes it on Arata and his team, but Arata effortlessly blocks it, leaving Gageorg momentarily stunned. As Gageorg struggles to comprehend how his attack was stopped, Arata suddenly appears above him and swiftly severs his arm, leaving the demon speechless. Without giving him a moment to think or react, Arata prepares to finish him, but Gageorg foolishly calls for a timeout, puzzled at how the situation escalated so quickly, but Arata simply ignores him and delivers a swift, decisive slash, completely defeating Gageorg. As Koju studies Arata's unique ability, Arata turns toward them and asks if they understand the difference between true heroes like himself and worthless losers like them. Then, without waiting for an answer, he orders his team to prepare to withdraw. After that, the whole capital erupts in joyous shouts while Anri realizes that she never stood a chance compared to Arata, who defeated her mortal enemy in an instant. Suddenly, Gageorg's head appears out of nowhere and angrily tells Arata that he'll never forgive him. Everyone is stunned to see him alive, and after that, he somehow packs up his remains and vanishes. However, Arata is not concerned because he's just a measly stage 3 demon, which he considers easy to handle. Anri, on the other hand, tells him not to underestimate Gageorg's true strength, but Arata ignores her warning and calls her an amateur, causing Anri to immediately recoil. Even though Gageorg escaped, the people still praise Arata, while Anri feels like a worthless trash for being less than the so-called hero. After that, the people of the city throw a huge festival to celebrate the near defeat of their tormentor. Koju watches the commotion from his balcony, and Lala tells him that she wants to attend the festival, but refuses to let her go. He explains that the people might go crazy if they see a goddess, and to make her give up attending the festival, Imari offers a bag of chips. With that, the lazy foodie heads back inside. Felice also wants to attend the festival, but Koju tells her that he can't leave a brooding Anri alone. Meanwhile, Anri continues to beat herself up for being too weak, and a few minutes later, Yuki comes over to see them. He introduces himself as a lackey for Team A and apologizes for Arata's bratty behavior, leaving Koju and the others momentarily speechless. Yuki assures them that Arata is actually a good person at heart. After his apology, Lala accepts it on everyone's behalf, without bothering to ask for their opinions. Yuki then offers a more personal apology to Anri, acknowledging that she was sidelined by Arata despite being the one who had been holding the city together before their arrival. Everyone is touched by Yuki's words, and Imari praises him for being different from the pompous heroes from Team A. However, Yuki insists that he is no true hero, pointing to his very low rank as proof. He claims he only received the Savior's crest out of sheer luck. In his eyes, he's no different from the so-called dropout heroes. He recounts how he was stranded in the world he had been summoned to, completely powerless against the Demon Lord. But at his lowest point, the Academy dispatched additional heroes, and together they defeated the Demon Lord. Yuki believes he merely piggybacked on the strength of others, and that thought has always made him feel like a fraud. He then tells Anri to hold on to the fact that the peace everyone is enjoying was in part because of her effort. As he prepares to leave, he informs them that Team A is about to depart for the Demon Lord's castle, and Anri entrusts him with her revenge. After he leaves, Koju wishes that the rest of Team A were as kind and approachable as Yuki. But Felice remarks that she actually prefers the arrogant ones, because the kind-hearted heroes like Yuki are usually the first to be sacrificed. The following day, Kuju and the girls head outside, where Lala immediately runs into a creepy otaku and ends up punching him. Meanwhile, Kuju and Imari grow increasingly anxious about the heroes who have yet to return. Suddenly, a teleportation circle appears, signaling the heroes' return. But the sight that greets them leaves everyone in shock, as the heroes stumble out, gravely injured, including the goddess Fry. Fear grips the crowd, and as panic begins to set in, Kuju rushes to the scene and quickly realizes they are barely clinging to life. He orders Amri to call for help and tells Imari to begin administering first aid immediately. When Lala asks how she can help, he bluntly tells her to stand back and look pretty. Just then, Yuki weakly reaches out to Kuju and apologizes for failing. Seeing the once bright and optimistic Yuki reduced to this state ignites a surge of fury. After the heroes are rushed to the hospital, Kuju learns that their roots have been stripped away, and without them, they will never regain consciousness. Apparently, only Yuki's root barely survived, but his injuries are so severe that he might not wake up anytime soon. Kuju begins to question what kind of force could be backing Gageorg. He notes that during the clash with Arata, Gageorg's strength was clearly inferior, which means something far more powerful is supporting him from the shadows. He then asks Lala whether there's any way to contact the Academy, but she explains that, as a goddess apprentice, she doesn't have the power to create a summoning gate on her own. Later, Amri puts on her battle attire, prompting Imari to ask where she's headed, and Amri replies that she intends to fulfill her duty now that their only hope is gone. Imari tries to stop her, but Amri refuses to listen. Kuju then steps in and warns her that leading now would only spread panic since the people look up to her, and her absence would shatter the little hope they have left. He assures her that the Academy will eventually realize something is wrong and send reinforcements, so all she can do now is wait. After hearing him out, Amri reluctantly agrees, but she admits she can't simply sit around doing nothing, so she decides to patrol the city instead. Once she leaves, Imari grows concerned and decides to follow her, but before she leaves, Kuju hands her a ring. Imari, however, completely misinterprets the gesture as a confession of love. Her mind nearly short-circuits from the shock, and before Kuju can properly explain, she bolts out the door, flustered. After she leaves, Lala casually plops herself onto Kuju's thigh, so he asks if she's feeling alright, but she simply mutters that she's tired. Kuju gently pats her on the head and tells her to get some rest, and once she drifts off to sleep, Felice asks him what he intends to do about the Demon Lord. Kuju calmly replies that he plans to do nothing, and soon after, he steps out to grab dinner before beginning his nightly patrol. Later, Kuju checks on the heroes of Tima before making his way into the city, where everyone seems to be panicking. Moments later, he slips into an alley to access Felice's treasury space, and upon entering, he heads straight for the evil sword, Levankin. After a brief struggle, he manages to pull it free and place it in his space. But the moment he steps out of the treasury, he finds Felice waiting for him in her human form. She tells him that she already knew what he intended to do when she asked that question earlier. Kuju asks if she plans to stop him, but Felice reminds him that she isn't even powerful enough to interfere. After teasing him lightly, she reassures him that she won't stop him, and she embraces him from behind to send him off, telling him to be careful, so Kuju promises to return soon. With that, he immediately teleports to the Demon Lord's castle. Upon his arrival, Gageorg prepares a grand welcome, remarking that Kuju is as reckless as Amri for coming alone. For the welcome party, Gageorg sends a ton of clown monsters, but as Kuju makes his way into the castle, he easily defeats the bunch of worthless trash without breaking a sweat. The fact that the monsters are too weak convinces him that Team A was defeated by something more powerful behind Gageorg. Kuju decides to focus on clearing the trash and follow the magic signature to track Gageorg's whereabouts in the castle. The next moment, he finally comes face to face with Gageorg, who calls him rude for entering his house without knocking. But Kuju reminds him that he just invaded someone else's town without an invitation either. However, Gageorg explains that villains are bound by chaos and have no morality, so he calls for a minion to throw Kuju out. He is stunned when he learns that all his underlings have been wiped out, so he decides to handle things himself. After boasting about what he did to Arata and his team, he then casts the same spell he used against Arata during their previous encounter, but Kuju casually flicks a finger to nullify it, leaving Gageorg puzzled. Disappointed by such mediocre power, Kuju taunts him to bring out his ultimate big guns. In response, Gageorg immediately unleashes a flurry of devastating strikes, but Kuju effortlessly dispels them all, much to Gageorg's amusement. He then mentions something about Kuju's unique ability, making him wonder how a demon lord knows about something from another world, but Gageorg tries to brush it off with some flimsy excuse. Deciding to finish Kuju off, Gageorg's power begins to surge, and to Kuju's surprise, the demon lord transforms into a massive clown mounted on wheels. Seeing Kuju's expression, Gageorg assumes he must be scared and immediately starts boasting about how he's going to annihilate him. Kuju, however, is unimpressed and calls him a weak trash, leaving the clown completely confused. The boring display convinces Kuju that this Gageorg could not have harmed Erida and his team. Sensing something is off, he questions whether the true demon lord might be someone else. This only infuriates Gageorg, who demands that Kuju stop treating him like a worthless fool. To prove himself, he unleashes his so-called ultimate curse, warning that no magic can nullify it. As the curse strikes Kuju, Gageorg begins his victory dance, but in the next instant, Kuju suddenly appears right in front of him. Without warning, he slashes off the clown's nose, leaving Gageorg stunned and wondering how Kuju survived the magic unharmed. Kuju calmly explains that he has endured dark magic 1,000 times under his mentor, so he is already accustomed to it. When Kuju continues to treat him as a piece of garbage, Gageorg throws a tantrum like a sissy, while swearing to murk Kuju. He then charges forward, but before he can even make any moves, Kuju cuts him clean in half with a single strike. After returning the sword to his space, Kuju delivers Amri's message, telling Gageorg to burn in Lucifer's lava dump. With Gageorg defeated, Kuju rushes back to the castle, realizing that his suspicion was correct and the true threat lurks in the very place that should have been the safest. True to his fears, at the capital's castle, a dark shadow looms over the corpses of several guards. Thanks for watching till the end, and make sure to comment Kuju is a loser to see what happens in part 2.